Do people tell you take life for granted? Are you just not satisfied with what you have? Do you want more? Well, you're in luck because today's episode, we're going to be talking about how to be satisfied with enough, if that's even possible.
Yeah, wish
This
I knew.
this is the Existential Stoic podcast. I'm Randy. That's Danny. What's going on, Danny?
What's up, Brady?
Now, Danny, have you ever in your few years here on the planet ever been dissatisfied?
Yes. I think it's like, I think that's I think Mill said it once. Like I think there is something in dissatisfaction that's important where I think like dissatisfaction helps us realize what we can improve upon. And so like it is an important facet of, recognition where we see our world and we say, "Oh, I wish this was different or that could be different. It could be better," and then we can make those changes. So I think there's part of it that's really good because it's a way to see like how we can improve our lives, maybe improve our world, whatever. But then there's the other side of it where like I think it's just there's like a hole that you're trying to fill that's unfillable. And
Mm.
that side of it's terrible because you just like there's never enough, right? It's like that's like where people get in that loop of like, you know, consumerism is a good example, right? You get the new phone, and a new one comes out 3 months later, and you want to have that one. It's like you just got a new phone. Like, do you need that phone? And it's like this cycle just goes on and on and on. And I think that's where it gets really dangerous.
Yeah, it's brutal because it's like an empty void. And
Yeah.
the more you cater to it, the emptier and the deeper it gets. It's like now you need to
It,
fill it
it
with more, and then it'll be like I caught
just keeps
myself,
making room.
yeah, I caught myself today in the loop where I was not feeling good. And so I started coming up with all of these theories about what I would want to change because then I would feel good. And I stopped myself when I finally caught myself and I was like, hang on. You have no guarantee that doing that will make you feel any better. Right now, you just feel like garbage. So let's just focus on feeling like garbage right now. And then the rest of it
Yeah.
will take care of itself. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like I feel like I know I feel the same way. It is. It's like a hole that you can't fill. And like I feel like it's so weird because I feel like I've been getting better at dealing with it. Like, but then at the same time, like I go back and forth, like, and definitely like when I'm tired and stuff, it's always worse. Like at night and stuff, I'll be like, I gotta keep working, gotta do this because I got, blah, 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 I gotta get there and get this. And then like, the next day, usually I have a better perspective on things, but it is difficult. It's like, and it's hard to know, like, I think it's just part too of like human life. We don't live in small communities anymore where our possible experience of types of lives is limited. Where like, you have a blacksmith and a farm, you know what I mean? Like it's like pretty straightforward. Now I think it's a lot more complicated in that sense. And there's more opportunities to do things. And every choice you make, you're making a choice about what you're going to do and spend a lot of time on. And there's always that fear that maybe there's another one that's slightly better, more right for you, more profitable, whatever, however you view it. And it's like that's always there, right? And so or you could always add one more thing in there, whatever. And it's like, yeah, it just gets to be too much.
What's really interesting is that my relationship with the problem has not changed. Like if I look back through my life, through the problems that I had in high school, or like when I was in university, or after I graduated, and he had huge student loan debts, or even now, and like all these things, the problems have changed. But my relationship to the problem has not changed because it's always been wherever I am is not good enough. And I need to exert some effort to do something, to make something different. So then it'll be okay. And then once I get there, there's another thing right after it.
I was thinking this the other day. I don't know if maybe you'll think the same way I did about it. Do you think this is because when we were younger in school and stuff, everybody told us you just gotta try hard and just do what you love and just get A's, and like that emphasis on like the goals sticks with us and it's really hard to cut?
Yeah,
That's it.
I think that's definitely a big part of it because I mean, like all of the problems and all these things that I have, I'm very fortunate they're like first world problems. There's like a roof over
Yeah,
my
yeah,
head, there's food in my
yes.
belly, and it's like very, very fortunate. But I heard it said where there's no hierarchy of suffering. So like even though they're first world problems, like it still causes me suffering, or I still cause
Yeah,
myself suffering because of it.
yeah.
And like, yeah, sure, can't compare it with other things. But I definitely think that I mean, for me, I think that created a lot of the drive that I have, where I have a hard time staying still.
Yeah, right. It's like a difficult. That's my problem too. It's like a difficulty staying still. Even when like I even when I try to take a day off where I'm sick or something, like I have a hard time stopping doing things, like stopping myself from doing things, and like, or like have a hard time, like, not having plans made already and stuff like that, and like just sitting. And I think that's important to just be able to sit down and just relax, or just like also appreciate what you have. Because I feel like when you're just rushing through it, you don't have a hard time appreciating like what you're actually doing and the journey, and focusing on goals is really not a good thing, I don't think. You need to focus on what you're doing.
I like what you said there with the journey. And it kind of reminded me something that you were talking about, I think last week or the week before, where like everybody has this idea that we're going to get to some place of happiness where it's like happily ever after. Never have a problem ever again. Everything's
Yeah.
great, but it's not. Like it's just not. As much as we want to be, it's just not. There's no happily ever after. But there is, like you're saying with the journey there can be a collection of these moments. And it seems like maybe the goal would be to look at me goal setting once again. Maybe the
Right.
goal would be to collect as many of
We
these
need fucking
moments.
goals.
Maybe it would be to collect as many of these moments where you're actually present and experiencing the moment. Because then that would kind of be a fulfilled life, right?
Yeah. I mean, theoretically, right? I mean, it's like that problem. I don't know. It's so hard because like I think we're all, yeah, here's the other thing about it. I think we're also taught too that we live in a world where there's not enough. And so we're fighting everybody else for stuff. That's at least like, consumerist US teachings, right? And like that also is part of it too, because I think that there's this feeling like if I stop, I won't get all the stuff that's mine. Like almost kind of, I know it's stupid, but like that feeling, like, and so that also puts pressure on us. I don't know, at least for myself, I've been trying to do this thing recently and it's been very helpful where when I find myself getting in that like phase of feeling dissatisfied or like stressed and feeling like I need to do more, like reminding myself that like I'm lucky I can do what I'm doing now and I wanted to do these things and I'm like grateful that I had these problems because these are all things I wanted to do and I'm doing them now. So that's awesome. And like trying to it helps me bring myself to the moment rather than like thinking of that future or thinking of like, the stresses and that whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's also it's like taking one day at a time. Okay, so a lot of
Yeah.
I cause myself so much suffering because I'm trying to figure it all out today. I'm trying to get it all done today. And it's just like, just this one day, like, can I make it until I go to sleep tonight? There's never been a day where there's even been a question about it.
Yeah.
Like every day, it's like, of course I can. But it's just like, then let me just back off. Let me have some compassion with myself and just like ease up.
Well, too, if you get through each day, you'll get to wherever you're going too. You don't need to worry about that. That's the other side of it too, is like I know it's hard, but like trying to stop worrying about that potential future that you can't plan for and don't know. I mean, like, and it's tough because there's that, like, I think there's a fine line between planning for the future in the sense of like, making sure you have stuff in place so that, you'll be okay if things happen and stuff versus like trying to plan the future. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
there is a difference. And I think we get caught up in, we shift that line over to planning for or planning rather than planning for.
I heard something really interesting this week. They were talking about, so we talk a lot about values on here because that's like the way to live the good life. And they were talking about principles. And that's like the way to get stuff done over time. Like at the end of every principle is a promise. So like if you want to be wealthy, you follow good money principles. Like you basically spend less than you earn. Simple.
Budget.
But it's
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it's like doing stuff like that. And so actually utilizing these principles to help you live a good life and get to the things you wanted to do.
That makes sense though, because principles can be construed a lot like character and stuff too. Like, having good habits, having good routines, all of that is like you're setting a baseline of like control and like responsibility that you take for things that you can expect. So when things are either stressful or seem out of control and stuff, you have that there already. It's a good like grounding effect, right? Or anchor.
Hmm.
And so I think, yeah, they can be really beneficial. And
Hmm.
knowing what matters to you, also knowing what lines you won't cross is also good. And that comes back to principles too and values, right?
Hmm.
Knowing where like, it's too far, or even if you could do that and that might help you achieve something faster, it's not worth it because you'd still have it would cause other problems, right?
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So I guess the other thing that I've been struggling with recently is like actually knowing that I know that enough is enough, but I still want more. There's still the want. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
like I have a beautiful place to live and I have, the food that I can eat and I have all this stuff, but it's like I want more. And it's like, how do I be satisfied with just what I have?
I think one way to do it is to ask yourself like try and ask yourself like what do you really need it for? I'll give you a concrete example, right? Like maybe this will help me. I don't know. Like I love photography, but I also love like the technology of it, like cameras, lenses, and stuff. And they're all like very expensive. Like they're not cheap. And so, but they also come out like every few years they come out with new ones, and they're really cool, and they have new features and stuff. And I always look at them because I'm interested in it, and I think it's neat to see where it's going and all. But I also there's a part of me that also wants them, but I don't buy them because I also know like I have to remind myself all the time, like for what I'm doing right now, like I have a good setup that I can use. It's very good and fine and works for what I'm using it for. Like I'm not doing it professionally or anything. I'm not making money from it. Like this is a perfect setup for me. It works. Eventually, if I outgrow it, that's fine. But like reminding yourself like your needs too, and in relation to like what you want more of. Does that make sense?
Mm. Hmm.
That's helped me because it's like, I realized like even if I had it, like I wouldn't be doing more with it. I wouldn't be able to use it more. I wouldn't be doing more with it anyway. So why? Like it's really just like,
Hmm.
a waste in that sense, I guess.
Hmm. Yeah. And then I look at like, because I feel like no matter what, there's always a pressing financial need. Like I'm doing good financially, but it's like I feel like there's always a pressing need to make more. And I keep looking and I'm like, how many meals can you eat in a day? Like how much better could one apartment be than another one? It's just like, yeah.
Well, I think that comes from though, being in severe debt before, being in situations where like there was that real fear that like, you could go bust almost, being in situations in the past where like things have changed dramatically and like you've had, I mean, that happens, right? So it's like there is always that fear, and we put so much emphasis on money anyway already because it is necessary to a point, but we also put so much emphasis on it as a metric for everything that
Hmm.
it's hard not to think that way. And I think this gets back to really like, what do you actually want and need in your life, And what are you willing to give up in pursuit of it? Because just blatantly, like just, going full force pursuing money and stuff, you're going to lose out on a lot of other things,
Yeah.
like that are important. So you have to kind of also think of that balance.
Yeah, why can't you
Maybe
have
that's the
it
key.
all?
Balance. I know, right? Right. Uh,
Why can't you
no,
have
but
it
not.
all?
It's so hard though. It is. Like I know what you mean though too, because like I find the same problem every time I sit down to like learn something. I'm like, why don't I know it right now? And like, you know, it gets I don't know. There's so many things I want to do, but I know I can't do all of them. And it's like, so it's like, how do I manage my interests so that I can do the right ones? Because what if I'm choosing the wrong ones? And like, it's like it's just not easy. Not
Hmm.
easy. I don't know if is it just a matter of balance? It's just a matter of appreciation and gratitude, or like, I
That's
don't
what I
know.
was just
Like,
that's what I was just gonna say because I was thinking I think it's during don't quote me on this, but I think it's during like Passover or maybe Rosh Hashanah or something like that. But there's a song called Dayenu, which is like it basically translates to like, or I think maybe it's even in English. Who knows? I don't remember. But basically, like
don't
if
know.
if he had only taken them out of Egypt and not parted the Red Seas for them, that would be enough. Or because Dayenu translates to enough. Like if he had only
Oh,
taken them
okay,
out of
okay.
Egypt, talking about the Jews back in the day,
Yeah.
if he'd only taken them out of Egypt, not part of the Red Seas, that would have been enough. If he had only like done this and not this, that would have been enough. And it's just like I think it probably does come down to gratitude a bit because you got to look at your life and be like, if I only get to live this one day, like that's enough. Because really, I mean, if you were told right now that like this was your last day, don't you think you would look at it a little bit differently
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
just like appreciate it a bit more and even be able to be like, find stuff that you could be grateful for. Like, geez, how about all this stuff that I really wanted and then I got and all this stuff that I did and heck, I'm still walking around on my own legs. That's pretty awesome and all this other stuff.
No, I actually like that one too. That's a good point. Like being grateful and recognizing that we're not owed anything, that's part of it too. Like that, like it's we don't necessarily we don't aren't owed anything. We don't deserve anything, So it's like those expectations of constantly more and more are kind of like really misguided.
Hmm.
But we should be grateful for what we do get because we got it. We have this life, we have this existence, we have this time to use as we want. I mean, like we should be grateful for that. There's so much
Hmm.
to be grateful for, and like I think if you get caught in that like never enough cycle, like you just do waste it too because you're miserable, you're stressed, you're chasing things and never really appreciating anything.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think appreciation and gratitude are so helpful. Like they really are so important and so easy not to do because it's so easy to take everything for granted. To expect it'll be there tomorrow, to expect you know what I mean? Like you'll have that stuff and just want more.
Yeah, it's like actually that's probably a good habit to just get in the habit of start living each day as if it's your last. Because like I was listening to Marcus Aurelius again this weekend, and he's like, stop living like you got 1,000 years to live. And then he's talking about like I think it was like Hippocrates or whatever he was talking about how after he told all these other people how they were going to die and how to be healthy and everything, he died on his own. And all these seers who
Yeah.
predicted people's deaths and everything, and they died. And all these worldly people who were the most popular people and who wanted all his power and everything, and they died too. And when I listened to that, I'm like, this guy is incredible and he's dead. Like
Yeah.
I have
And he also
something,
had everything.
yeah,
Yeah.
I have something now that he doesn't have called life.
Yeah.
And
And
it's just like incredible.
you, you have your opportunity, your chance right now, right? And I think that's the other thing too. Like, I don't know, like the existentialists emphasize death a lot too. And I think it's important because like if you if you really think about it, like this is your opportunity. You have this time. You are alive now. And so it's like a really important thing. Don't waste it. And you can't bring anything with you. Like once you die, you're gone. So chasing all this stuff, like, is kind of like, why? What are you gonna do with it? If you're doing something really important for you, that's great. I mean, like if you really value whatever you're doing, that's good. Then do it because it's important to you. It adds value to your life, whatever. But if you're just chasing things to fill a gap, it's like you're just wasting time.
Hmm. Yeah. It's it's really crazy. Like because
Well, that's
we were
gonna be
talking
one.
we were talking about
No, go
death.
ahead.
We were talking about death last week. And it's like we've distanced ourselves from it so much. Like back when I was working as a vet, it like messed with my head big time because especially
Yeah.
around the Christmas season, that was euthanasia season. So I was literally killing dogs and cats, and they would come in, and I
Oh,
would do something to
people
them,
probably
and then they would
wait.
be dead. And
They
it
probably
like,
wait for their family to get home too, right? So they can do it
oh
together
yeah,
and stuff. Like,
oh
yeah,
yeah, yeah. And so it was like it still messes with my mind because I'm like, they're existing there one moment, and then on some other plane of existence, or maybe just gone totally the next moment, and it's
yeah,
like it's that fragile.
yeah.
Totally crazy.
Well, no, you're right though. We have separated ourselves from it. Think about it. Did you go to the grocery store? You don't see cows hung up. You see meat packaged in plastic. It's like it's presented in a way where it's like not even the thing. It's so
Hmm.
strange. Like
Hmm.
we separate ourselves from it entirely. And it's really probably like that was probably easier back in the day because people were, yes, it was hard, but like also they were just like it was a part of life. It was part of it was accepted in that sense.
Yeah, not to mention like you had a family of 7 children out of 12, So like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Then again, I mean, Marcus Aurelius constantly reminds himself of it, and he saw it all the time.
yeah.
I mean, wars back then were probably like people dropping like flies. You know?
Oh my God. Yeah, I remember them saying, what was it, the Civil War, where more people died from disease than they actually died from gunshots.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh
Because
my
think about it
God.
though, back then, man, you get oh my God, you get like an infection or something, you're done.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have treatments.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it is crazy. And that's the other thing too, is like, like think of like regrets too. Like if you were dying, like are you gonna be upset that you don't have more money in the bank when you're dying that you can't take with you?
Mm-mm.
Are you gonna be upset that you can't? I know people are worried too. Like, don't get me wrong, I understand like planning for the future, like parents or something might want to leave something behind or something for their family or whatever. That's one thing, but like, are you gonna be upset that you don't have a bunch of stuff to take with you because you can't take it?
Mm.
Is that really what's gonna stress you out on your deathbed? Or is it gonna be that you didn't do things that you enjoyed or that you didn't appreciate things more, that you didn't see people you love, whatever.
Mm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I mean, like kind of structuring your life, even around like all the shitty stuff, because people are always going to have parts of their life that's no fun and jobs that they hate. But like structuring your life around that to where you can still have things that you enjoy that make it enough.
Yeah.
Hmm, that does make sense.
Well, we also I think we live in this time too that's hard because it's like, like it's consumerism, right? There's always something at a higher level. Like I can go afford a car, but there's always a car that costs more that has better interior, better things. I can go eat a meal and that'll satisfy my hunger, but there's always a fancier restaurant, a Michelin star or whatever, where you can spend tons of money on something, right? Like I can go get a shirt and wear it and that covers me and it protects me against the cold, or I can go get a designer shirt for thousands of, it's like there's always going to be that next level because the way we live. And it's like, do you need that? Is that even necessary? Is that even what you want? Is that what you want to worry about? Is that really going to make your life better?
Hmm. Yeah, it's going to be a different answer for everyone.
It is. But I mean,
Hmm.
I think to some extent that there is diminishing returns though, too, where like something satisfies a need or a purpose and adding, to that doesn't necessarily increase value like in the same way.
Yeah. Well, for James Bond, the world is not enough.
No, it's never enough.
Man, that was a great game on 64, Nintendo
That was like one of
64.
the best games ever made, I think.
Ever. That was enough. If they
I
had
wish
just
that, that
made GoldenEye
was.
007 and never made Halo, that was enough.
I wish it's funny that was so cool having the four-person playing in the same console thing. I wish they did that still, but they don't.
Hmm.
That was great. That was
Yeah,
so fun.
yeah. Yeah, so you got a good point with gratitude and just figuring out the stuff that does make it worthwhile.
And
I feel like I'm breathing easier now that we've talked about this.
and
Yeah.
also just be easier on yourself because you're gonna get back in this loop again anyway. It happens to all of us. Like, it's gonna
Hmm.
happen.
Yeah.
And I think it's there's probably so many factors involved that you just have to like be easy on yourself too. You know?
Hmm. Bingo. So anything else how to be fulfilled with enough, how to be satisfied with enough? All right.
Keep
Well,
trying because maybe we'll get there.
I know, right? You never know. It could be the next thing. But I think it is, I think it does come down to just being satisfied right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Maybe if you can keep reminding yourself that you are too, right?
I know whether you know it or not, you already have
Yeah.
enough. Whether you know it or not. Because you have everything you need for right now. It's like
Yeah.
that thing, give us this day our daily bread. You get manna from heaven every day.
But
Cool.
don't take more than you need.
Exactly, because it goes rotten. Hmm.
Yeah.
I read that. All right. Well, before we mumble any longer, there you
Good
have
place
it.
to end.
There you have it. How to be satisfied with enough. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode. If you enjoyed it, make sure to like, share, subscribe. Check us out on YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. This is the Existential Stoic Podcast. I'm Randy. That's Danny. I'll see you later, Danny.
Later, Randy.